Welcome to the Wedding Planning 101, where I'm going to show you how to plan your wedding like a pro. If you just got engaged and you're thinking, okay, now what? Or if you're already knee-deep in wedding planning and feeling completely overwhelmed, this podcast is for you. If you're ready for insider tips, actionable advice, and real talk from someone who's been behind the scenes of over 500 weddings, then let's get planning. Hey there, and welcome to episode 4. I'm Amanda Jerome, and if you've been following along through episodes 1, 2, and 3, you've done some incredible foundational work. You've identified your priorities, built your budget, and had some deep conversations about your relationship and how you're going to show up for each other. Now it's time to talk about something that might seem purely logistical on the surface, but it's actually deeply meaningful. Your wedding day timeline. And I know what you're thinking. Amanda, it's just a schedule. We figure out when the ceremony starts, when dinner is, when we cut the cake. What's the big deal? But here's what's important. Planning your day is not just about figuring out what's happening when. Your wedding day is going to fly by faster than you can possibly imagine. And if you're not intentional about building in time to actually connect with your partner throughout the day, you're going to get to midnight, look at each other, and realize the whole thing happened and you barely spent time together. This sounds crazy, right? Of course, your wedding day should be about the two of you. But so many couples don't actually prioritize that. They get swept up in the momentum of the day, the photos, the guests, the obligations, the timeline. And they forget to carve out moments for themselves. Today, we're going to fix that. We're going to talk about how to intentionally design your wedding day so that you're present with each other, so that you actually experience it together, and so you don't just look back at photos wondering where the day went. So grab your workbook and let's get planning. Before we get into the strategies, I want to tell you about my own wedding day because I wish I could say I did all of this perfectly, but I didn't. And I want you to learn from my mistakes. So here's what happened. My partner at the time didn't write his speech in advance. Instead, he took up his entire morning working on it, which meant he was running late, getting ready with his guys, and inevitably late for our first look. You know, the moment where you see each other before the ceremony. That moment ended up feeling rushed and stressed instead of special and intimate. After the ceremony, the photographer basically went rogue, taking photos of anyone that asked him. And when we didn't get pictures with my grandparents or with certain family members that I really wish we had documented now. Red flags I can see clearly now in hindsight. The ceremony happened, the reception happened, and we were both just going through the motions, checking things off the list, making sure everyone else was having a good time. It wasn't until 12:30 in the morning that we were finally sitting alone in the venue. And I remember just looking around and saying to him, well, that happened. The day had absolutely flown by. Everyone had left, and I felt like a complete zombie. Like I'd been through this whirlwind and couldn't really tell you what it felt like to experience it. And here's the thing. I wish I could tell you this was a unique experience, but it's not. It's so incredibly common. I've been planning weddings for over 20 years, and I see this happen constantly. Couples get to the end of their day and realize they barely spent any time together. They were hosting, they were posing for photos, they were talking to guests, but they weren't present with each other. I'm sharing this to prepare you because you can avoid this. You can have an intentional, beautiful day that stays in your memory forever. Okay, let's talk about one of the most controversial decisions in wedding planning, the first look or reveal. Now, I know there's this tradition about not seeing each other before the ceremony. And if that tradition is deeply meaningful to you, if it's rooted in your culture or religion, or it just feels right for you, then honor that. But I do want to challenge you to think about the practical reality of that choice. If you don't see each other before walking down the aisle, that's basically half the day or more, and you'll go without seeing each other for that long. You wake up, you get ready separately, and the first time you make eye contact is when you're walking down the aisle towards each other. And look, I'm going to be real with you. You're not going to ruin your marriage because you see each other before walking down the aisle. In fact, I would argue that a first look actually adds to the magic of the day. And here's why. When you do a first look, you get a private moment. It's just the two of you. Well, you and the photographer, but they fade into the background. You get to see each other. You get to take each other in, say all the things you want to say without 150 people watching you. You get to cry, you get to laugh, you get to just be together before the craziness of the day really kicks in. And honestly, a lot of couples these days will actually spend the night together before the wedding. They'll get up and do their regular morning routine together, go for a walk, grab a cup of coffee, have breakfast before they separate to start getting ready. And then they get to see each other again for the first look. There's something really beautiful and special about starting your wedding day the same way you start every other day, together. Now, let me paint you a picture of what it's actually like to walk down the aisle, because I don't think anyone really prepares couples for this. You start walking, there are all these people who love you and you love them. And they're so excited. They're waving, they're crying, they're trying to get your attention. Some people will even reach out to try and touch you because they just can't help themselves. They're not trying to distract you. They're just overwhelmed with joy and excitement and want a piece of that magic. You're trying to smile at everyone, acknowledge everyone, and also somehow stay focused on who you're walking towards at the end of that aisle. But the truth is, you don't actually get to focus all your attention on your partner. There's just too much happening. So here's something I want to share from my own experience as a woman who always knew who I was walking down the aisle with, but never really thought about who I was walking towards. When I walked down the aisle with my dad, in that moment, yes, I was excited to see my partner at the end, but I was also so present with my dad. And that moment deserved its time. That moment deserved my full presence and attention. Now, maybe not everybody has that relationship with their dad, but whomever you're choosing to walk down the aisle with, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a best friend, or someone else important to you, that moment deserves its time. That person deserves your presence. You deserve that moment. And then you get to the end of the aisle and you're maybe 3 feet away before you can really focus on your partner's face. You get a quick moment to take them in and then boom, ceremony time. You are in it. So if you've already had the first look, you've already had that private moment earlier in the day. You've already seen each other, held each other, said what needed to be said. Now you get to walk down the aisle present with whomever is walking with you, knowing you'll have plenty of time with your partner throughout the rest of the day, including this special ceremony moment. Okay, let's talk about the ceremony itself, because this is going to be one of the most surreal moments of your entire life. The ceremony will go by before you know it. I promise you. It doesn't matter if your ceremony is 15 minutes or 45 minutes. It's going to feel like it happened in about 90 seconds. It's an out-of-body experience. You're nervous. You can't believe this is actually happening. This is the moment you've been building towards for months or even years. And there's a very real risk that you'll just float through it without actually being present. So, how do you stay grounded? How do you make sure you're actually experiencing this moment instead of just getting through it? Here are some things you can do. Hold hands during the ceremony. Make eye contact. Take a deep breath together. And if you're reading vows, really look at each other while you're saying them. Don't just read from paper. Build in these little moments of connection. And maybe it's a private vow you whisper to each other that no one else hears. Maybe it's squeezing each other's hands 3 times to mean, I love you. Maybe it's just pausing for a second to really take in the moment before you say, I do. And here's something else to think about. If you don't want to make any impact with your ceremony, if you don't want it to be meaningful or memorable for you or for your guests, and you want your ceremony to just be quick, then why are you getting married? This is a lot of money to spend on a party. The ceremony is the whole point. So think about what you want that ceremony to feel like. Think about what words you want spoken, what readings or rituals feel meaningful to you, what you want your guests to experience and remember. Make it count. All right, so you just walked back down the aisle. You are married. Everyone's cheering. Here's what typically happens. Everyone follows you out for cocktail hour. You stop to hug everybody, you say hi to your grandma, you take a few photos, and suddenly you're swept away into the next thing. Ugh, don't do that. Here's what you should do instead. Leave immediately. And I know that sounds harsh, but listen, if you stop to talk to people right after the ceremony, you create a bottleneck. Everyone wants to hug you and congratulate you and talk to you. And suddenly you've spent 20 minutes in a receiving line that wasn't even planned. Instead, walk down that aisle and keep on walking. Go back to wherever you got ready. Have a little retreat space set up. Maybe it is in your getting ready room, or maybe it's a private suite at the venue, wherever works. Have someone bring you a beverage and some snacks. Take 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes to be alone with the person you just married. Let that sink in. Decompress and talk about how you're feeling. Cry if you need to. Laugh, kiss. Just be together. This is your moment, your first moment as a married couple, and you deserve to experience it privately before you go back into hosting mode. After those 10 minutes, then you can go and take your formal photos, join the cocktail hour if you want, greet your guests, but you'll have had that moment to reset, regulate, and reconnect first. Once you're into the reception, cocktail hour, dinner, dancing, the day is going to move even faster. So here's another strategic retreat to consider building into your timeline. About 10 minutes before dinner is served, before you're invited to sit down for dinner, both of you disappear. Go together. This is a great opportunity to refresh your hair and makeup if you want, but more importantly, have a glass of water, take a deep breath, and check in with each other. Have another reset. Because dinner is going to fly by, you're going to be introduced, you're going to sit down for dinner, there are going to be toasts, you might be eating or you might be too nervous to eat, and suddenly dessert is being served and you're cutting the cake. Another moment to consider during dinner is your golden hour. Take beautiful sunset photos, have a really lovely romantic moment just to, again, have a little reset time. Now, those little check-ins throughout the day, those moments where you pause, look at each other, and remember why you're doing all of this, that's what's going to keep you grounded and present. Even during dinner, if you're sitting at a sweetheart table or a formal head table, you're sitting next to each other, hold hands under the table or rest your hand on each other's leg. Just maintaining a physical contact helps you stay connected even when you're surrounded by people and activity. Throughout the reception, the dance reception, make it a point to find each other. If you've been talking in different groups of guests, maybe every 20, 30 minutes, seek each other out, touch base, steal a dance. If it's not a formal dance, grab a moment on the dance floor for just the two of you. These little moments might seem small, but they add up. They're what will make the difference between looking back on your wedding day as a blur and looking back on it as a day you actually experienced together. Let me touch on something I mentioned earlier about my own wedding, not getting photos with certain family members. When you're planning your photo timeline, be intentional about who you want photos with. Make a list and give that list to your photographer and to your wedding party or family members who can help wrangle people. Because in the moment, you're not going to remember. You're not going to think, oh, I should get a photo with grandma and grandpa when you're in the middle of everything. You need to have that planned out in advance. And don't let your partner disappear for half the cocktail hour taking photos with their friends while you're doing something else. Stay together for photos as much as possible. If they want photos with their friends, you can step out of the frame for a few, and then they can step out while you get photos with your friends. But don't split up for extended periods. Remember, this is your day together, and the photos should reflect that. Okay, here's your homework after this episode. First, let's start drafting your wedding day timeline in your workbook. Not just the big milestones like ceremony time and dinner time, but the connection moments. When are you doing your first look? When is your post-ceremony retreat? When is your pre-dinner reset? What time is golden hour? Second, decide how you feel about that first look. Have that conversation with your partner and think about whether seeing each other before the ceremony feels right for you or whether the traditional approach is important to you. There's no wrong answer, but make it an intentional choice. Third, make your photo list. Who do you absolutely want photos with? Write it down so you don't forget anyone important. And finally, commit to prioritizing time together throughout the day. It's easy to say, of course we will, but when you're in the moment, you need to have a plan. Build those retreat moments into your timeline now. In our next episode, we're going to talk about how to ask for help and delegating all of your wedding planning duties, which, when DIY planning your wedding, is an integral aspect to you being able to sink into the wedding day to enjoy every moment. Until then, remember, your wedding day is going to be incredible, but only if you're actually present to experience it. Plan for connection, plan for presence, plan for those moments that matter. I'm Amanda Jerome, and I'll see you in episode 5. Happy planning! Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Wedding Planning 101. If you're ready to take the stress out of wedding planning and get organized like a pro, head to weddingplanning101.com to get your Wedding Planning 101 workbook. Inside, you'll find everything we talked about in this episode, plus templates, checklists, budget trackers, and all the tools you need to plan your wedding day with confidence so you can actually enjoy the day when it gets here. Your dream day is waiting, and it starts with planning it like a pro.